Another hot take I have is if you're not working out in super shoes, you're doing yourself a disservice.
Ooh,
Ooh,
interesting.
that is a hot
Okay.
take.
Tell me
Nice.
why.
So those shoes permit you to run faster. There's no there's no arguing it in any way, shape, or form. Okay. One of the things that that shoe does is it increases the impulses that your body experiences, right? So every time you hit the ground, it hits back harder. Okay. And so you lose less energy. Okay. And so that moment is called amortization. Okay. So it's the moment you go from an eccentric, your foot is hitting and stretching, to a concentric, you're pushing off. So that transition from eccentric to concentric, you could draw a curve of what that looks like. And if you look at the Kenyan to, I think it was like Ryan Hall and Kiblima, or I can't remember who the other person was. If you look at those curves, right? If you were to look at those curves for somebody running in a super shoe and running in a trainer, they look vastly different, right? The super shoe is going to be tighter and it's going to be higher. And so that's going to allow you to hit higher impulses and higher velocities, higher takeoff velocities with every step. That's what happens. That's why they work. Um, and
Okay,
they
so what
reduce.
is the just explain this like to me like I'm five. What does an
Oh,
impulse
sorry.
do? Like what is so like velocity meaning turnover, meaning like the
Oh, no, no,
speed
no,
of
no.
your
So
cadence
like,
or
so like, literally, it's like a bouncy ball. Like imagine if you took your leg and it was like, or imagine if you took a bouncy ball, right? And you had one bouncy ball that was like just not very elastic, or it was like didn't bounce very high, right? Or take a flat basketball. This is a perfect example. You take a flat basketball, you bounce it, right? You have to push it down harder to get it to come up as high,
okay.
right? Now, if you take a basketball that's really filled up, it bounces really easily. Okay.
I see.
Those are the super shoes. So now some would say, well, that your body's not doing the work, the shoe is, right? They'd say, well, the ball is doing the work, not your arm. And I would say, you're correct. You're doing more work in the shoe that sucks. But if you do the same amount of work in the other shoe, you're going to have more, like from a physics perspective, you will have done more work as a human being. Like like the physics of it, mechanically speaking, you will have traveled farther and faster. You will have traveled farther in the same amount of time. You will have done more work. And so it's the same theory behind creatine, right? Creatine for resistance training, it increases, you might get one or two more reps. Well, if you do that for 8 weeks at a time, 8 weeks in a row, you've now done like 30 more reps. Well, you've done more work. And if you've done more work, you'll get more physiological um, uh, response, right? Or
All right.
adaptation.
I want to fully understand this and possibly push back by or just ask a question and clarify. So
But by all
work
means,
work is a physics equation, right? And I don't know what the equation is, but it's something like
force times
math.
distance.
Force times distance. Okay, great.
Yep.
Force times distance. So force times distance, that is the work that you're doing. However, like the effort is going to be different. If you have 8 by mile at 550 pace and that's your threshold, you're doing the same amount of work in a with a stronger effort, with more effort than
Mhm.
if you're not wearing a super shoe, if you're wearing a
Well,
dumb shoe, right?
well, keep in mind though, you wouldn't run them at 550, right? Like if I said like
You just
you
might be
could,
above threshold.
but at that
Let's say
point,
you're
like
capable of doing it.
right, but that's my point, right? That you're like that's the point I'm making is like you wouldn't go and run 550 in super shoes.
Okay.
You'd go and run 540. And so that's what I mean by you're doing the same amount of work in less time, right? And so the other thing is it's very mechanical in nature. Like the forces on the tissue are higher.
Mhm.
And so because of the mechanics of the shoe, like it's like running on grass versus pavement, right?
Yeah.
The
So
impulses on
for me, it
pavement.
just doesn't click for me that you would be in better shape by wearing super shoes doing that if you were running 540s and having the same amount of effort. Does that make
But you
sense?
wouldn't. Yeah, I think I hear what you're saying, but I think you have to think about which variables you're controlling across the board. Like let's take VO2, right? So like if you fix your VO2 at 60 milliliters per kilogram per minute
Mhm.
and you're wearing super shoes or you're not wearing super shoes. If you're in super shoes, you're going to be running 4% faster. Okay. The reason you are going to run 4% faster is because the impulses on your leg are
Yep.
higher. You're
Yep.
running on a stiffer substance. So
More
your
inflated
tissue,
ball. Yeah.
exactly, right? So your tissues, your tendons, your muscles, your connective tissue, collagen, all that stuff. Well, collagen's a protein, but it's within all that other stuff. It is going to adapt to that higher impulse. It's going to adapt more than it would for
I
a
see.
lower impulse, right?
Okay.
So so it's more about the mechanical, it's
Makes
more about the
sense.
mechanical elements than it is the, oh, it's also neurological too,
Yeah.
but like you're learning to run faster. You're there's a learning thing. That's actually where most of the adaptation from high mileage programs come from. Now, Jack Daniels was actually, people think that he was like the VO2 max guy. He's actually the like running economy guy. That's like his thing. That's why if you read the running formula or you look at his 800 training, he always has them do 4 by 200 on the front and 4 by 200 on the back. And in the middle, he has them run pace. And so his theory was like you need to run as much at pace as possible. Um, and so and why? Because you're neurologically learning how to run better. Brad
Mm.
Hadfield at Maryland, he was also like really in this space. Um, and yeah, so that's like that's my theory. Now I
Yeah.
recognize it's a hot
Okay.
take,
No,
but
I like the take.
that's my take.